Welcome back to the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always, here I'm your host, Calvin Glen Alexander, and back again talking some more hoops with the fellow hoops guy, Jay. So, Jay, how's it going?
It's going good. Just not enjoying this weather. That's for sure.
Yeah, I gotta say, this is just another shout out. If you're not seeing the podcast visually on YouTube, then you don't get like the byline Jay puts in every time. Which this one, you got to check it out. I'm not gonna give it away, but yeah. I'm with you. I'm annoyed with the weather as well. I love playing outdoors if I can. So it's just where it's at. It's not about this cold weather. Definitely not about the ice right now either. But
yeah, I definitely did fall in my driveway going out to my truck earlier. So
yeah, dogs. Both dogs tripped me like the other night or last night a couple times. Go and take out the trash and get them on a walk. So. Besides the weather update here, as I don't know how I always do with the podcast starting out, talk some NBA hoops here, and as we ramp up towards the All-Star game, talk some starters, reserves, and some stuff we're looking forward to in the second half. So, yeah, I'll start out with this. Thunder recently went 2-2 on their kind of road, road series of playing in LA, 2 games, Lakers and Clippers, and then Jazz and Minnesota. They won the final 2 to end the streak. Do you think the Thunder need to make a trade? After all this, they're 2 seed in the West. Do you think a trade is like a definite need here?
I like the group that we have. The only thing that we have a problem with is rebounding. I think that might come back to it, like bite us in the butt, later in the playoffs runs if we don't make a trade. But I do like the core that we have. They seem like high chemistry. They work well together. They play defense together. Not a lot of selfishness. Shea Alexander's only got 6 or 7 assists a game right now, but he gets his team involved so well by just spacing the floor. So if you're going to make a trade, it's got to be for a big that can go get some boards. But other than that, I really don't think you need to make a trade.
I agree completely on I don't think you need to make one, but if we're trying to be more robust, right? If we're just trying to have the second line guy not be basically Jalen Williams and not J-Dub, that's where I have like hey, can we go get Andre Drummond for cheap? That's kind of because to your point on the rebounding, like that's what he could do. He could just go in, okay, you got Anthony Davis or Zubac, like really posting up Chet down low and just making his life a lot tougher than it has to be. Mm-hmm. Granted, Chet can clearly hold his own because we beat the Timberwolves and beat him by 5 and made Anthony Edwards basically fall apart down the stretch. But for the same point, okay, if you can throw Andre Drummond in and so that's the guy that Chet's matching up instead of Chet basically playing the entire time against either Davis or LeBron or Christian Wood or whoever else, or the Timberwolves have 3 centers, right? So just doing something like that, I think I'm with you. I would love to see us get some more rebounding help for sure.
Yeah, rebounding's always been like I said it like the first 5 games, like rebound's gonna be a problem, but like they said, like their defense, I think makes up for it with their turnovers that they cause. I think it really kind of makes up for it. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, I mean we're a really good team, clearly second overall in the West, but the one thing, if we're looking at like the leaders and stats basically and everything like that, it's the rebounding is pretty bad. We don't rank top in the top half of the league. I think I'm trying to make sure I'm right in saying this, but I think we're like bottom 3rd or even bottom 4 in the league in rebounding, which is hard to do that over a whole season. And then also still be that good overall. Mm-hmm. But yeah, rebounding is really the one thing. I know it's been said several times by other media personalities, including ourselves here, that basically bolstering up down low is something we got to look forward to. Just got to find a way to add that one more guy, just because Jalen Williams I think he's 6'9", 6'10", so he doesn't have that much height. He can shoot from 3, but like his elite thing is we need him to go down low and like box some guys out and get rebounds. And
right
when you got to face up against the Wembanyamas and the Porzingises and all those guys who have like, Wembanyama might really be like 7'6". Who knows? I think he's 7'3", 7'4". But when a couple inches, I'm not going to fret. But like when the guys are like 5 inches, okay, maybe we need to do something, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So with that being said, though, too, we're heading into the All-Star break is going to be happening before too long. We're definitely halfway through the NBA season, but with the All-Star game this year, did want to ask you about kind of some starters, reserves, and who you think's going to get snubbed. Of course, there are. I did have to look this up to let everyone know. I didn't say, of course. It's like I know everything. But you do have 12 total players for each team. 5 starters are voted on by the public and also some others. So those, everyone can see who has control of. But then the other 7 reserves are voted on by NBA coaches. The coaches cannot vote for a player on their own team. That's how it works. But basically, I'll kick it to you here. Who do you think in the West? Who should be starting in your mind? Who should be starting in the West?
Oh, first and foremost, Shea Alexander, 100%. Like, I think he might be MVP. I think an All-Star is just right there too. So I think he's going to be a starter. Luka, you can never forget about Luka. Jokic, I think that's 3. LeBron James is always going to be up there. He's playing at a high caliber, year 40 for him. And I don't know, maybe you would probably see like a Stephen Curry, Kawhi Leonard in there, Kevin Durant even. So, you looking at the West starters, like West has always been stacked. It's hard to say like, hey, there's all these big names, old all-stars, and you get the new ones coming in. Where do you put where and where?
Yeah, I don't know how it all works from like how many front court versus backcourt players, because to me, like, okay, once you're a certain height, then you're not a guard, but
right.
like Luka's a guard, right? Like if we're thinking about it, so then okay, if you can have 3 guards and 2 front court, then yeah, I think it's pretty much Luka, Steph, and Shea. From the NBA fan voting, that's what looks like far and away it to be the deal. But then if in the front court, I think it's got to be Jokic, and then basically LeBron. Like LeBron is just this good and this impactful for a Lakers team. The tough thing though is that the Lakers just aren't that good overall as a team right now. So the Mavericks aren't either, but like the Mavericks just have Luka,
Right. 33 points a game, 8 assists a game, 9 rebounds a game. He's just everywhere. Like if you want someone to take the final shot, I might take Luka and Shea over everybody in the NBA. Like, yeah, that's just how I feel. Luka usually it's called Luka Magic for a reason, and Shea's been known to, like, this past few games, hit big clutch shots. So like, I don't see anybody else beating them in the front court.
I'm with you.
In the back court.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't really respect like LeBron, KD, and Anthony Davis on the voting for fan votes as like they have to be starters, just because their teams, like, okay, well, if you have to be a starter, like, then your team should have to be really good. And that's mainly because those 3 guys I just named have other all-stars on their team. Like, hard for me to think that Devin Booker won't be an all-star reserve. Right? Hard for me to think that Anthony Davis won't be an all-star reserve if he doesn't start, which I don't think he's going to start. From the voting, there's no way he starts. He's like 2 million or 1.5 million votes behind KD, who's 3rd, so he's not going to start. But yeah, Luka I give a lot of props to. Steph I honestly give a lot of props to too, because they've been missing. Klay Thompson basically has been absent this entire year from what he normally looks like, and who knows if it'll come back. Luka, I can make several jokes about Kyrie, but I'll leave it at, if Luka had an Anthony Davis, or if he had LeBron James or KD on his team, I mean, how good would the Mavs be? Like, I think they'd be incredible. So for him not having one of those guys on his team and still being this good and still get them to where they are, like, okay, you know what? He definitely deserves to start.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
What about the East though? What do you think about the East here?
Oh, Giannis is always first and foremost. Jason Tatum. Yeah, let me pull him up. Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Halliburton for sure should be an all-star.
Yeah.
Well, he's young. I think he might be an all-star caliber point guard. I think the injury did kind of set him back a little bit. Giannis and Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, and Donovan Mitchell. Like those guys, nightly basis, put up points, put up, wins for their teams.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Donovan Mitchell, honestly, because he's been in several trade rumors. He now has been playing without Darius Garland and Mobley for quite a while, like a good stretch. And they're still fourth in the East, which I hate to make fun of the East being horrible all the time, but they're 10 games over 500. Like they're not, they're fourth seed and they're doing pretty darn good. They're better than the Knicks, who I hear about all the time, and they're better than the Heat record-wise, who I also hear about all the time. And then from that, I'd say, yeah, you've basically got to put a bunch of those guys. You got to put. I'd say for sure Halliburton has to start, except for the missed games part does hurt him. I hate Trae Young. I don't know what it is exactly. Trae Young should get traded. In my mind, the Hawks should trade Trae Young. This was not on the topic list. They should trade him just to see how good he would be on another team where he doesn't have to be the number one guy or feel like he has to be the number one guy.
Where would he be a good fit? What NBA team would you put him on if you could right now?
Spurs.
With Victor Wembanyama?
Yeah. Basically because you've got Pop, who I think could help coach him up a little bit.
Best NBA coach of all time.
Yep. And then you also have an organization that has historically always drafted and done stuff really well overall. So when I hear DeJounte Murray maybe going back to the Spurs, I'm like, well, what about Trae? Like, what about Trae going to the Spurs? Because I think they'll have the cap space. And then all of a sudden you have Wembanyama, who will be like is the prodigy of the NBA right now, and he will be the Spurs storyline for forever. So this will not be Trae Young's team. And yes, Trae Young does get to the line, does shoot a bunch, does make some incredible 3-point plays. But like, if you can get some weight off his shoulders as far as playmaking, just a little bit, then I think he's incredible. And maybe you can do that. That's my thought. Or the Rockets. I would really love for Trae Young to go to the Rockets, honestly.
Okay, the Rockets would be interesting. I think Trae Young doesn't have the attitude to be, not that guy. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. He's always been told he was too little, yada yada. He's arrogant. He's Trae Young. You either love him or you hate him. Like, I understand, but he shoots a lot, and would he fit in a Pop's offensive scheme or even a defensive scheme? Because Spurs have always been known for defense, and Trae Young has always been lackluster on defense. So, put him on the Spurs would also help them with their 3-point percentage. They don't shoot well. They don't have a lot of 3-point shooters. I understand where you put him at, but I don't see Trae Young fitting well at the Spurs, even if, like, hypothetically, that makes sense.
Yeah, I know it's not like a favorable idea. Just probably Trae Young would not want to go there. If I was Trae Young, I wouldn't want to go there, except for to try to win a championship. But I don't think Trae Young. I think about it this way: could Trae Young be the second best player on a finals team? I think so. I think he can be the second best player, but I don't think he can be the best player on a finals team. I don't think he's that. Basically, I feel bad for him because I think if he was 4 or 5 inches taller, he would easily be that guy. But because of his height, it does not match up well with his wingspan, his ability to play defense, and the rest of his athleticism to really just make a huge impact on both sides of the court. So I know I got a little off topic there, but I would definitely say Trae
I like that question.
To be. Yeah. Gosh, I just saw this Cavaliers Magic score. The Cavs are up 72-46 on the Magic at half. Anyways, But then, I mean, Giannis, Embiid, Tatum, like that's for sure. And then Halliburton, depending on if anyone's okay with the amount of games he's missed. I'm okay with it because honestly, because of the in-season tournament, because the Pacers got all the way to that final game against the Lakers, I honestly think Halliburton deserves a lot of love and credit for playing those games, and getting that far. And then if it's not Trae Young, then I would put Donovan Mitchell just a little bit over Lillard. Just maybe sprinkle in some Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah. Did you say Brunson?
I did not say Brunson. He's not leading in the votes category for guards, so I didn't. But he's also incredible. I do think he should definitely make the All-Star game as well. I mean, Brunson,
what about Damian Lillard? Since I brought up Brunson,
yeah,
see, like I said, the East is packed with good talent, but like you haven't really heard a lot because Lillard has been kind of under the radar this year, being the number 2 guy. And I think that really hurts people that have been the number 1 guy for so long. Becoming number 2, it takes a long time for them to adjust into like a scheme, into like playing around someone. So that's a big deal. Yeah, he hit a game winner the other night and Dame time, but it's just hard for NBA All-Stars, that were number 1 to be as good as they were when they were the number 1 option when they're the number 2 option now.
Yeah, that's a great point. I also want to add here too, like Lillard had a career high against the Pistons, 45 point, or not a career, but a Bucks career high. With the Pistons, scored 45 just a day ago. They're back again playing the Pistons tonight here Monday when we're recording, and like Lillard might be making that kind of push to be All-Star vote getting and stuff, which totally would have a big favoritism for him there if he does kind of pull away a little bit, because you've got, no matter what, to me, I think it's Halliburton, just because he leads the league in assists. He has no turnovers. He got to play in game. Just the guy's crazy. Yeah. Now, if anyone's curious, like on the game count, like he's played in 34 games this year. Out of, and I'm just trying to make sure I get this real quick, out of 43. So he's on pace to play more than 65 if he doesn't get injured again. He's inactive. What is it? He was inactive yesterday, the 21st, but he did play on the 19th. So he's missed quite a few games here, but I'm not going to harp on him that much if he doesn't miss a bunch more games, basically into the All-Star game. I think then we're good. But then after Halliburton, it's like, all right, then you've got 3. You've got Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, honestly even 4 if you want to throw Jalen Brunson in the mix, but then also Lillard. And who out of those guys is starting? That'll be a real challenge and real tough, because in the East, you have to have Embiid start for sure. You have to have Giannis start no matter what.
Jason Tatum has to start.
Tatum has to start too. Yeah. So
and then you ask the question, like, Mikal Bridges from the Nets. I watched the OKC Nets game, and he is a nightmare to guard. And do you put him in the reserves, or do you put him in the front court or the back court? He's kind of that mix in between, can guard all 5 or 4 positions. Probably can't guard center, but he's a heck of a shooter. Or do you put Mikal Bridges in this in the All-Star?
Yeah, I think Mikal's a reserve, but that's just because he's boxed out by so many other great players. Right. Like there's no way that the Celtics don't have a starter. When you're looking at it, like
Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis has been playing out of his mind. Derek White's been, probably the most improved players for the last 2 years.
Well, and as I'm saying this out loud, there's no way you don't have a Celtic start. We didn't talk about one Timberwolf starting.
Right.
And they're leading the West. So we talked about, a Thunder player starting, of course, and definitely a Nuggets player starting. It's the 2 and 3rd seed, but like you've got the best team in the West record wise. And you're going, I don't think they should have a starter, which to me is probably, in my mind, it's a little bit recency bias, because we saw Anthony Edwards, as I mentioned earlier, down the stretch. He's fouled by Lou Dort taking a 3 when they're down 3. And I thought, no freaking way. This is how, one, if an Oklahoma State team was going to lose, that's how an Oklahoma State team loses, by the way, is that that's just what happens by just sheer just bad luck. That's also how a Thunder team loses. So the fact that the Thunder pulled that one out, I'm like, well, you know what? Things are changing. Things are changing a little bit here. We're doing better. So,
and then, after all talking about that, we didn't talk about a single Clippers, being starter other than Kawhi Leonard. Paul George, where do you put Paul George? You put him in the reserve?
Yeah.
Who do you play over him? Durant, who, isn't, he's being Durant. He can score at will at any point. But I watched the Clippers game. They were down at 15 at one point and came all the way back and won the game.
Against who was it at against the other night where they based?
I think it was
the Nets.
The Nets, yes.
Yeah, that was crazy. Where the Nets didn't score for 7 minutes or 5 minutes or something.
I mean, that's what happens when you have two defensive players on, or defensive player of the years on the same team with Kawhi and Paul George, and then you bring Russell Westbrook, who brought 21, 8, and 9 off the bench. That's insane. That's like having Clippers have that much all-star, caliber players, on one team, and you're only looking at Kawhi making an all-star.
Yeah. It'd be really interesting to see because I love looking back at the NBA history, and so I love having the deal where you can look back and go, okay, so historically these the guys who are all-stars have been the best players in the league. So if I want to look back and talk with my dad more about, watching 90s basketball when I was an infant or whatever, I can look back at the all-star teams, and kind of go, okay. But then that's because there's 12 guys on each team. Where now, if I'm like, oh, well, maybe we should have it where it's 15 teams, where we're 15 players, which if the league expands, there definitely is more talk about that, then let's do that for sure. But if it still is at 30 teams, it's like, well, I think it should still be 12. And then it's like, all right, well, you know what? Maybe it should be 15 because it's just hard to kind of match that up historically. But I don't know how long it's been 12, wishing off the top of my head, but I know that there's two teams that are fairly new to the NBA overall league-wise, and the Grizzlies and Raptors. So, you know what? Got to make some more. Got to make some more teams. Got to make some more room. And also Charlotte, too. Charlotte's also. And I cannot – I shouldn't say I cannot wait because I can clearly wait on it to happen because I want the Thunder to have a better chance of winning, and when there's more teams, I don't think that helps them. But I'll be very excited to see when Seattle and Vegas get teams. Yeah. I wish it was Vancouver. I wish Seattle would never get a team again. I think they screwed up. Vancouver, just make everyone get a passport just to go over, basically, to go see all the Seattle residents. But no, I'm just joking and kind of making fun of Adam Silver throwing that out for saying, oh, well, Vancouver might get it back. It's like, dude, Seattle will definitely get one before Vancouver. But anyways.
I think their market allows for it more than.
Yeah. They'll just probably play indoors. That was a Brock Purdy joke. Anyways,
pretty funny.
Yeah. Brock Purdy's hands are not large enough to grip a football real well. So, anyways, but they did win. So, shout out to them.
Yeah, they did win.
Could do other podcasts by the NFL. Maybe we'll do a Super Bowl preview. Anyways,
too early prediction for your Super Bowl winner, real quick.
Oh yeah. Super Bowl winner
right now. Who you taking?
Chiefs.
Chiefs. Okay. I'm taking the Lions.
Ooh, okay. Both of us are taking the 3 seeds. Neither of us are I didn't like the Niners this past weekend, and the Ravens just haven't done it yet. They haven't shown me something where I'm like,
Lamar's special, I would say, but I want to say, I think Lions have a chance this year, and I'm excited for them. They beat my team that I wanted to win all, Tampa, because I'm a Baker fan, but at the end of the day, it is what it is.
It is what it is. It's so hard for me to hate Baker overall, just knowing his story, but it's very easy to hate Baker being an Oklahoma State fan too.
Right.
So, you have the same point. Got the OSU clock up behind me here. Like there's a lot of Oklahoma State fandom that hates Baker, but also really, really loves his backstory of being a walk-on and then transferring, et cetera. Anyways, all right, so I had a fun topic here for you too as well. Try to make me do this a little weekly, but would you rather have Steph Curry's shot or Wembanyama's length, height and wingspan?
Yeah, I think I was yelling about it this weekend about having a lot shorter arms than a lot of the guys that I was playing against. So I definitely take the height and the arm length against the shot because I've got a deadly shot. I can't really get rid of it. So adding more to it just would be unfair. So you just give me some height and should be okay.
See, I think this is the difference here because I'm a little bit taller than you. Where I think of like a car is like a sleeper build, right? So you got a van that you put like a V12 in it,
right?
It's also
right.
super fast, or it's a Toyota Camry or whatever, right? I would love to have Steph Curry shot for that exact reason, because then I'd be like, yeah, I think we'll take the slow and athletic white guy who's about 6'2", 6'3". Well, all right, we'll go pick it up with our 5th pick, and then someone gives you the ball, and you're just like, oh, he can shoot. Oh, he can still shoot. I think that would be a lot more fun. Because then, like, I'm just being honest, if you're 7'6", like, are you really playing pickup hoops?
Yeah, just throw him the ball. I'll dunk it every time.
I mean, but like, are you? So there's one guy who actually used to do a bunch of podcasts with out in LA, named Spencer, who played high school basketball. He honestly knows basketball really, really well, just like you do. He's kind of got a little bit more of the Jokic like ability to pass it, just because he can see over everyone. Because he's like I think he's like 6'7". He, I think, is like, I'm 6'5", because he's that tall. You're like kind of going under the height. You're being modest, but like him, like when I would guard him, he would basically try to make sure he would play kind of like how Jokic had 3 shots against the Pistons the other night. He'd be like very nice to me kind of starting out. And then if I would get a couple buckets, he's like, oh, okay. All right. Let me turn it up a notch. Like, all right, Calvin, like, there'd be a couple times he'd stuff me. And with all due respect, like, ton of fun, great guy to play against. He was never being mean to me. But if you're 7'6", like you find the guy who's 6'7" out there and you're like, well, this will be kind of closer. You just like, but that's not that often, not that common, although it would be great just to show up, just be like, I got a buddy who wants to come play. And it's like, oh yeah. It's like, oh yeah, he's really good at basketball, but he actually can dunk it. Oh really? Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he walks up and like, he doesn't have to jump to dunk it, dude. Like, what the hell? So I think that'd be a good deal too. But I think that's the differences here is that you'd go, hey, I've already got a great shot. I'd love to have the length. And I'd go, don't have a great shot. I'm a little bit taller than some, not any mass amount of people, but some. So I'm just going, I'd rather have that sleeper kind of to be able to get that shot. Although did knock down a couple this past weekend, so it's nice.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, give myself some credit. All right, then I want to ask you too. So one of the podcasts I listen to a bunch is the Ryan Russillo podcast, and he went on this whole basically like opener podcast rant this past weekend, where he was talking about the Siakam trade and basically going over like free agents, where that you don't really have like truly unrestricted free agents anymore in the league. You just don't have the Kevin Durant's the world, truly deciding. More or less what you have now is, maybe have LeBron, but like, is Embiid ever going to be a truly unrestricted free agent? Is Jokic ever, you're not going to see these guys really come up. And with that being said, I can't remember the last time I was thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, we've got these guys who they could go anywhere. And when I say I can't remember, like, yeah, I can remember Kawhi, but that's kind of the last guy where I'm like truly all-star level. So with that being said, with the Siakam trade, if you're the Pacers, I think you do it again 10 out of 10 times, right? Because you did give up some valuable assets.
Like I think it's Bruce Brown, right? And who else? It's Bruce Brown and Jordan Nwora. And 3 first-round picks.
Yeah. So one thing is 2 of those first-round picks are in this year's draft. So if both are in one draft, like, they're not that valuable. Now, granted, you could use them both straight up for maybe the 3rd pick or I don't know, whatever. But it's interesting to me how the league's shifting in that, where it's like, all right, well, yeah, the Pacers now know you've got to sign Siakam. And that's not only do you have to trade, but you also got to say, yeah, we'll sign him after the season too. That's kind of hurting his trade value. But would you do that trade again?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, as young as the Pacers are, I think adding that, another young guy to the core and someone as skilled as Siakam is, I think it was a really good trade. I think they got better. I think when Tyrese gets back and is fully healthy, I think the Pacers will make another run, and I think they'll be, middle of the pack Eastern team that we'll see in the playoffs.
I think they'll be really good again. Just kind of like they were with Paul George, but I don't know if this is it's kind of like it's kind of like the classic Thunder question is, when do you push the chips in, right? When do you start trying to cash these chips in? When I asked the first question of the podcast, like, do the Thunder need to make a trade? I don't think they need to, but if they wanted to, they could.
They could, yeah.
Now, also, I think that's kind of the Thunder kind of in the double-edged sword here, because every team knows they've got all these picks. So now you've got, if you're the Thunder, you usually might have been able to go, hey, yeah, I'll offer you 2 first-rounders. But now any team knows you've got 17 of them, so they're like, why not just do 4? But with that being,
why don't you just add the extra one in there for me?
Yeah, what's wrong with doing 6 first-rounders? If you were thinking 2, just do 6 and we'll get it done for sure. With that being said, though, is this the trade, though? Like, does Siakam really fit on this team with Halliburton and the other guys? How do you think he fits?
Absolutely. You lose a little bit of defense and three-point shooting with Bruce Brown leaving, the NBA champion from last year, Nuggets. And I think he's a great addition to the Pacers. When I saw it, I was like, oh, man, Pacers are going to be good. I think he has height. He has a little bit of size in the trenches down there for the big guys. And I think it's one of the best trades that will probably happen in the trade line.
Yeah, I mean, just jumping straight in the next topic. Like, what other trades do you want to see? What is one trade you'd love to see between now and the deadline? Because I think Siakam's the biggest name we'll see get traded for sure.
Yeah, I think honestly, like we were talking about with Trae Young, I think the Hawks have to make a trade. I don't know if they get rid of Trae Young or or Devontae Murray. I think you keep one. I think you get more out of Trae if you keep him at the Hawks. But I also think the Spurs need a big trade, like we were talking about. They need a point guard, some 3-point shooting. Who do you go after? There's, Devontae Murray. So I think they're going to try to go after him again. Like, I will not be surprised if he goes back and kind of get, and that was a trade that got them Wembanyama. That pick they got from the Hawks was him. So if they get him back, it was kind of like a slap in the face to the Hawks organization. So I would like to see it, but at the same time, I doubt it will happen. I think the Heat need to make some changes. I think Lowry's getting too old. He's a vet. I think they need a younger, faster point guard, maybe some defense. I think they go, after another point guard.
Yeah.
Probably less of a vet. And other than that, I think the teams are kind of set their ways. I doubt there's going to be any big name changes. Unless the Thunder pull the wool over eyes and send, a core guy to go get a vet for, this upcoming postseason. I don't see a lot of big names leaving where they're at.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of big names moving either. The ones that you just, besides the ones you mentioned just now, the other one I've heard is Bogdanovich from the Pistons. Now, the Pistons have said, apparently publicly, they've said he's untouchable. Which,
yeah, he's not, the 44-year-old is untouchable.
Which, go figure. I just think it's too well known that he's touchable that they wanted to try to put some brakes on it a little bit. And I know he's got to be a good locker room guy, but him, and then I also could see just, on your point about DeJounte Murray, I could also see him going to the Lakers. It was reported today that the Lakers, basically that the Hawks do not want to take D'Angelo Russell back. And they don't want to take back his kind of cap, and they also just don't. I mean, if you've got Trae Young, you definitely don't need D'Angelo Russell. Like, you just don't. D'Angelo Russell is just a lesser Trae Young in my mind, so you don't need both. Now, granted, Russell can probably play a little bit better defense, but we're really just splitting hairs here at that point. So I definitely understand the Hawks not wanting to have both those same guys on the same team and be forced into a buyout or whatever with Russell. So I think Russell is in a 1-year deal with a player option though. So yeah, if I'm the Lakers, I want DeJounte Murray, but the other guy here is Zach LaVine. Do you think Zach LaVine gets moved? He's basically the biggest name left. Now,
Okay.
now here's what's crazy. The Bulls have been better without him on the court. He is injured right now again. He's going to be getting evaluated in like 1 to 2 weeks. Past that was just a couple days ago that was reported, so still like a week plus out. And he's got a trade kicker. So if he does get traded, his like salary goes up 15%, which is crazy for a guy who has made some All-Star games, has a very, very, very good NBA slam dunk contest. I forget if he won or if Aaron Gordon won or how that all worked out. I think he won one of them.
Both is Zach LaVine's wins, and he said, and then that's when Aaron Gordon said he won't ever do another dunk contest because of that.
Aaron Gordon should have won one, but anyways, he's not doing it anymore. But with that being said, yeah, did you see Zach LaVine get traded? It just seems like his value is getting diminished.
Yeah, where does he fit? Like the Rockets, maybe? Like they need a 2-guard. But like he's a good player. I love Zach LaVine. I've been a fan of him since the T-Wolves days when he was a rookie. Oh, and
I've been following him since UCLA. So I mean, you got on this train way late. Yeah. You've been following him since T-Wolves day. You so
understandable. Yeah, I think I've been a big fan of him, but I think he doesn't really fit a lot of places. 2 guards are usually, your star players or, really good players. Could he fit at the Nuggets? Could they make a trade for that? Who knows? What team would you like to see him on? It's just hard for me to think, what the Bulls would get from any other, team.
So I'm trying to do a little bit of on the fly here research, but I would personally love to see him go. We talked about DeJounte Murray going back to the Spurs. Why not Zach LaVine go back to the Wolves? Have Anthony Edwards run point.
But Conley's been playing at such a high level. Like Conley's the one of the best point guards right now. I think. He's a vet. From Minnesota. I mean, he's been hit. I think his corner threes are like at an astronomical rate that he hits. Like I watched him, at the OKC game. I watched him as soon as he caught the ball, like on my first play, he hit the 3. I was like, oh, it's gonna be a good game for him, and he hit 15 points against the Thunder. Thunder won. Don't get me wrong, but Mike Conley, I don't think you move him out of the starting rotation as a good vet point guard.
Well, hear me out though. So right now, your small forward, basically the guy you've got there is Kyle Anderson, right? Maybe Jaden McDaniel some nights, Kyle Anderson, slow-mo. And then point guard, you've got Mike Conley. I'm a big UCLA guy, so I don't really know Kyle Anderson. Yeah, I just got family ties there. And
hey, I watched him at the Spurs. I jumped on the train late, so I understand. But I knew him from the Spurs.
Kyle Anderson is Memphis Grizzlies is my least favorite iteration of him, but that's just because they played the Thunder so tough every time. And Andrew Wiggins also would just go off with the T-Wolves with Kyle Anderson on the team too. So anyways, that being said, I think if Zach LaVine could somehow go to the T-Wolves, I don't think salary cap wise this makes any sense at all because of course they got Rudy Gobert's contract, they got Anthony Edwards here before too long, et cetera, et cetera. But if there's a way to get Zach LaVine to the Wolves to play basically a 6-man / small forward role, and kind of do it that way, where Mike Conley, 16 years in the league, true NBA vet, but he does miss some games. He's 36. Mm-hmm. And so, if you can sprinkle his minutes a little bit in, this is kind of the same thing. Like if Chris Paul was fully healthy, dude, somehow send Chris Paul to the T-Wolves, man. I mean, he'd be in the exact same role as Mike Conley. So basically you just take 2 older injured prone point guards, and then you have one good one, right? You just kind of mess it together. Granted, their salaries probably are crazy, but if I'm going, Timberwolves starting lineup, January 22nd, 2024, they're starting Jordan McLaughlin. So, I think that kind of shows a little bit that they basically just need some more guys. And actually, this is Conley's 17th season. He is 36 still, but yeah, this is not his 16th. It's his 17th. So I would love there. I would hate to see him as a Laker. I think that would be horrible, and it would not be good for the Lakers, and it would not be good for Zach LaVine, and not be good for basketball overall. I'm just going to say that. That's the other place I've seen him where I'm like, nah, please do not do that. That would actually kill me a little bit inside. But I mean, maybe the Spurs. I just want to put someone next to Wembanyama who's got some offensive skill set, basically. I mean, the Spurs right now are putting out a laughable lineup in my mind every single night. Where, let's see, their matchup against Philadelphia, which is that game's going on right now. But yeah, their Spurs lineup here tonight. I haven't heard of 3 of these guys in my life that they're starting. I mean, Trey Jones, Julian I think it's Champagne. And I guess I have heard of Devin Vassell, but like, gosh, they're just the Spurs, man. They've got it. They've got to do something. So that's the other team I love to see make a change or do something. But yeah, I think maybe we've exhausted all the possible trade scenarios here because there's just not much else I can think of besides really just trying to get. I mean, I'd love to see the Pistons trade for somebody, but there's no trades they can make. They made their one big trade, which was getting rid of Bagley's contract. So,
yeah, it's definitely been different for the Pistons. I kind of feel bad for them. I feel bad for Cade Cunningham. I bet you feel bad because he's an OSU player, but he looks like a seasoned vet out there.
He puts up like 40 a night, and they still win like no games. I mean,
he looks rough like every game. He looks like he's ready to retire right then and right there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this offseason starts with Cade requesting a trade.
Yeah.
I mean, he's by far and away their best player, right? Like, there's not anyone close to him on that team, would you say?
No. Would the Spurs be wrong to go after Cade Cunningham?
No. Oh, God, that would be... I just remember that draft so much because that same year I had been working for the Pistons until April, and the Pistons said, hey, we're changing management, we're good, deuces. And granted, they were very nice about it. They were much nicer than Simply put together because they're an NBA professional organization. They were actually all extremely nice people. But with that being said, please do not aggregate this social media people. But the Killian Hayes pick. I have followed so many NBA writers, and the amount of people who have been wrong on Killian Hayes is still out there. Like, we need to talk more about how Killian Hayes is just not that guy. And he may never be. He may be, honestly, the perfect guy to start over start with Mike Conley right now, just because he could just hold the floor. But when the Pistons got that first overall pick, I just immediately, my heart sunk. Because I was like, man, I know the ins and outs of this team. I know everyone who's on it. And I just felt bad. And felt really bad for Cade. Then he gets injured. Then they get a better pick. They get Jaden Ivey. I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, this is kind of a really, really good 1-2 punch. And now it looks like Jaden Ivey maybe getting a couple more minutes here and doing some better stuff. But not looking great right now.
Right.
Not looking great. The Pistons currently should not be tanking, but they have to be tanking. They've won 4 games this year. I don't think they are trying to tank, honestly. I just think that the whole team overall is just that bad that they don't really have another option. So, you know what? Some teams, guys, swoop in, trade for Isaiah Stewart, or maybe that's where the Thunder just try to go pick off a couple of guys from their former assistant GM and Troy Weaver and just go, hey, let's go get, let's go get a couple dudes off this roster here, especially when you talk about it. They traded away Bagley, and now they have Mike Muscala on the team. So, Thunder, go get Moose, bring him back. Let's see what we can do. So, I don't know. I would love to see that, but yeah. With that being said, also, what's your biggest surprise from the first half of the season?
The T-Wolves are still in the front of the West. I thought they would crumble and fall apart by now. And, I think I said that on one of the first podcasts that we did, that I would, they're doing good. They started strong, but I think they'll fall apart. And, they're just still playing good basketball. They've lost to the Thunder a few times, and I think that's just because the Thunder matches up decently with them. And that's just been my biggest surprise is like they've held up. They're looking like a good team. And my other big surprise is that the Warriors dynasty is finally over. Warriors dynasty is finally over. All the heartache the Warriors have caused me, all the pain and suffering, I like, as much as I, respect Steve Kerr as a coach, and, Steph Curry is one of the best shooters, and Klay Thompson's one of the best catch and shooters of all time. I'm just glad to see them finally falling from grace.
All right. Well, I agree. Yeah, biggest surprise is probably gotta be the Warriors. They're just actually falling off a cliff. Like going from okay, probably in it every single year, but they won the championship. I mean, they were in the championship, or they won the championship, 2 years ago, right? 2022, and now we're all of a sudden going, okay, they're out. Like, I mean, they're not horrible. Like they're 2 games back of the Rockets, but they're also just 4 games back of the Lakers. So it's kind of whichever way you want to say they're on. But basically, Draymond Green just being a total head case and them falling off a cliff is one of my biggest surprises. But the other biggest surprise here, I got to say, is Jaime Jaquez playing as good as he has for the Heat. I did not see this coming. I mean, this is a guy who UCLA guy, so of course I was following him. But comes to the league, he's 22, so he's an older rookie. He's a 18th overall pick. I thought, oh man, the Lakers should probably pick him up because they had the 17th pick. They don't. Instead, they get Jaden Hood-Schifino, so I think played like less than 80 minutes this whole season so far. So again, great pick by the Lakers.
Their front office is one of the best I've ever seen lately. This past few years, they have not made any bad trades or anything lately, or picks.
Yeah. But to talk about Hawkins for a little bit, I mean, he's definitely the veteran guy. Like when he went to the Heat, I thought immediately, wow, this is the team where he could be really good. Like this is the team where he really could excel. I didn't think he'd be this good at all. I mean, probably no one did, but he's averaging like 30 minutes a game. Now, granted, he's averaging 14 points a game too, so it's not like his overall is just insane. But in almost any other NBA season, I'd say he'd win Rookie of the Year. Like, if I want to go back to the Michael Carter-Williams Rookie of the Year, he'd win it. If I want to go back to Tyreke Evans Rookie of the Year, Hawkins would win it. Now, those are just 2 guys who I just, were kind of one and done, flashes in the pan guys this 1 year. But Hawkins is just playing really, really good, like, team basketball. He fits in so well with the Heat, and every single time I see him play, he's the guy who I'm like, man, if I'm introducing somebody to the ability to here's how to play basketball without having to be like incredibly athletic or just do something out of the ordinary, have a really high, he has a really high basketball IQ, but he just fits real well into any kind of lineup he's out on the court with. So that's my thing where I'm like, man, he's just so good overall. I would go, it's kind of Hawkins. It's like, you got to watch him to learn how to play basketball. I mean, I'd much rather tell somebody to watch Hawkins versus watching Trae Young, just because.
That's fair.
I mean, we've talked about it before without recording about the guys who we just really dislike playing with, and that's the guys who just shoot threes without even trying to look for another guy to pass it to.
Right.
So that's gotta be it. And then, what is the most intriguing second half storyline for you as well too?
I'm just looking at the NBA standings that the Kings don't make it past the first round playoffs.
Okay.
They started the season very well, and they just kind of been under the radar lately. Like, I think second half they either find it or I think they'll stay at the bottom of the Western Conference and they don't make it out of the first round.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the standings, I think you're right. I don't see why the Kings would be better than they were last year. I mean, last year they lost to the Warriors, who then lost to the Lakers. And if I'm picking straight up right now, like Kings, they're eighth right now. Like they're definitely not beating the T-Wolves.
Right in the first quarter of the NBA, I think me, you, and Kenny talked about it on a podcast, and the Kings were dominating the league at the moment. And De'Aaron Fox looked good. Wiggins was hitting at a high clip, or it was Harrison Barnes that was hitting at a high clip, and they just look really good. And now they're 8th seed and kind of just falling apart. They just don't get the it just doesn't feel like how they felt at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I gotta say, my most intriguing second half storyline is how much better do the Magic get? Because the Orlando Magic were, for many podcasts, media aggregation site, whatever that I listened to, it was like they were like the media darlings. It was like them and the Thunder. Like, okay, who's going to be able to kind of rise up? The Thunder might make another playing game, or the Thunder might be like a 6, 7, 8 seed or whatever. Now the Thunder are the 2 seed in the West through 40 plus games of the season, so they're doing incredible. You got the Magic here, who, we talked about it. The East is pretty darn good, but the Magic are 3 games over 500. They just added a 6. I think their most recent Anthony Black here, I think he was a 6th overall pick this last draft, I want to say. And they're not as good as I thought they'd be in year 2. I mean, every so often I hear Wendell Carter Jr. trade rumors pop up. I've heard those for the Thunder. Granted, he's only played 17 games, so that might be part of it too. But yeah, they're just not as good as I thought they'd be. And that'll be the real interesting thing for me to see here in the second half. It's like, okay, do the Magic take advantage of playing some of these teams who will decide at some point, okay, let's just tank. No matter what, somebody will come out here at some point going, hey, that 2024 draft, there's actually quite a few guys who will be really good role players. And here's how they'd fit and whatever. Like, there's no Wemby, there's no Chet, there's no Paolo, there's no whatever. But at some point here, there will be the, hey, tank for whoever. And I think that's when we'll start seeing some teams make a decision. Will the Magic take a leap forward then? Or will they just kind of stick where they're at here as an 8th seed? Granted, making the playoffs would be great, but I hearing everything I do, watching NBA today or whatever, I'd go, oh man, the Cavaliers must be horrible and the Magic must be incredible. And then you look at the stands, you're like, nope, not it at all. So curious to see here if the Magic
I will admit the Orlando Magic media team on TikTok with their song has got me just like anytime I hear Orlando Magic, I think of that song that they play on their TikTok. It's like Orlando Magic. It's like over and over, and it's like it just feels like it's like a hamster just rolling in my head the entirety of my day. Just Orlando Magic is anytime and all day.
I'll have to look that up for sure then. Yeah, but that's because I just I don't know. I thought they'd be much better than they are. Other thing, I guess we've talked about the Clippers a little bit here, but it's also like, can the Clippers keep this up? Kind of like, can the Timberwolves keep this up? Can the Clippers keep this up?
I think they have enough talent everywhere. I mean, when you have Russell Westbrook coming off, I mean, I'm a big fan of Russell myself, but I think if you have that kind of a caliber guy off the bench, same with Powell coming off the bench, a good 3-and-D player that's been, that's a vet too. I think they keep it up. I think they'll probably have a slow start after the All-Star break, and then they'll ramp back up.
Yeah, my question is more like, will they have kind of a dip productivity. They have one of these 4 guys they have, get injured, and 4 including Zubac at that point, right? Like I'm not like Russ almost never gets injured, knock on wood here, but will they have a guy get injured enough where it's like, oh crap, now all of a sudden we're looking at, basically a Clippers team here where their backup center is Daniel Tice, or Mason Plumlee, and that's all of a sudden who they've got, or they just don't have. I mean, point guard James Harden has been an incredible point guard for them. Basically, 5 games after coming on the team, and it was a 5-game slump, but after 5 games, he's been incredible for them. So will he be able to keep this up as well, or will he start talking in the media about how he's going to get paid this offseason more, and his play slip a little bit or not, or whatever it is? So we're really curious here. Or heaven forbid, does Kawhi get injured? Like it's always kind of and maybe we just don't see Kawhi for like a month. And if you're the Clippers, maybe you also are hoping that happens. You're like, hey, you know what? We'd rather have you healthy for the playoffs. Go take a month off. Like, be fully ready to go. Do whatever you got to do.
That's fair. I mean, I'm just looking at their roster. Like you said, Mason Plumlee, that gives Zubac. I mean, Mason Plumlee is still a solid center. Like, he gives you what, he, kind of creates, nothing like an Embiid or Jokic type. But, he plays his role. I think the Clippers, do well for the rest of the season.
Yeah. It just, like you said, they've got a shooting guard right now starting. They have Terrence Mann, which is a incredibly tall shooting guard. But, I mean, I forgot how tall Terrence Mann is exactly, but I think he's like 6'8". He's
6'5", is 6'5". What they have him registered as.
I take that all back. I'll just edit that out. Just kidding. But besides that, I just think, if the Clippers just have any injuries, like if they have any injuries or they have any kind of roster tumultuous times here, probably best way to say it, then what will happen? Because behind Kawhi, they've got Kobe Brown and PJ Tucker, which PJ Tucker, not horrible, but not a young dude. And behind Paul George, they've got Amir Coffey. Now, they do have Norman Powell, but their bench just isn't as deep as you would want a team to be with this many injury history kind of stuff going on. It's basically what I'm getting at here overall. Not trying to harp on the Clippers, but they're not the end all be all at the end of the day when it's like, I wonder how they'll be. If
you're the Thunder, would you rather face the LA Clippers or the LA Lakers?
Ooh.
In the playoffs?
That's a great question. Right now, after the Thunder played both recently and lost to both, granted in LA, but still after that, I would say I'd rather play. I think I'd rather play the Lakers than the Clippers. 1, record-wise, but 2, I think over a 7-game series, you can really wear out Anthony Davis and LeBron versus wearing out all the Clippers guys who just seem so interchangeable. Just like, okay, I mean, their bench isn't that deep, but you really are only going to have like an 8-man rotation in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And so I'm getting down to brass tacks here. Like, okay, you've got Westbrook, Norman Powell, PJ Tucker, Amir Coffey. You just, Bones Highlands could get a minute or 2 and be serviceable in the playoffs. Like, yeah, it'd work. Mason Plumlee, Tice, like all these guys have played playoff minutes before, whereas the Lakers, I mean, something happens here to Anthony Davis, like, all right, Jalen Hood-Schifino, you're up. Let's see what happens. So that'd be the interesting part to me. D'Angelo Russell, is he gonna be able to carry you for 7 games against Shea? No.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Not happen. You're gonna try to stuff him on Lou Dort. And Lou Dort's probably going to go through D'Angelo Russell 7 times, the Lakers just don't match up well for a 7-game series against a team like the Thunder. They match up really well, I'd say, against like the T-Wolves, but they don't match up against honestly, I think Chet is the biggest stock up, stock down guy in the playoffs here. Like, to see how he plays and how good he is, because right now nothing's bothered him. Every so often I see Thunder win, and then the next notification is Chet Holmgren gets dunked on. And it's like, well, we won the game. I don't care.
Right, well, yeah.
Yeah, he's part of
But
a highlight.
I think
but whatever.
here's the thing. I hate the whole getting dunked on, getting crossed, and that comes with good defense. If you don't go up for blocks, you're just allowing these guys. You gotta respect the people that go up to block the guys. They put so much emphasis. Oh, he got dunked on. He got crossed up. Like they're playing defense against NBA caliber players. Like, of course it's going to happen. So,
yeah.
And I gotta say, I gotta respect Shet for getting as many blocks as he has. Everybody says, oh, he's too skinny and everything. He's blocking I think he blocked Karl Anthony Towns, who probably has 60 pounds on him.
Oh yeah, he blocked Gobert twice.
Yeah. So you gotta respect it. Like you're gonna get dunked on if you jump against 6'7", 6'8" guys. So it comes with it.
Yeah, it's just part of learning how to play basketball better. I mean, this is Chet's rookie season. Cool. I'm glad he's getting dunked on because you know what? If he was like 6 years in the league and dunked on, I'd be like, crap. Maybe he's going down a little bit, or maybe he won't keep doing this. But he's getting dunked on as a rookie. Like he's not going to be wavering at the end of the day. He's going to be like, all right, I'm still going up for it. Still going to try to, take someone's head off as well. Like he'll do it on this other end of the court where he basically just waits for someone to go past him and dunks on them. And I think about more of like the layman's terms of, do you want someone to play good defense when you're playing pickup hoops or not? It's like, no, I want someone to try on defense versus not. I'd rather the guy do you want someone to take a charge who's on my team? Probably not, because I'm worried about them getting hurt. But right. That's what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about them. If they know how to take a charge and can take a charge and it'd be all good, go for it. So.
Fun fact. I just got a notification. I just looked. Embiid has 59 at the end of the third quarter, and Cat has 41.
Whoa!
So I don't know who Cat's playing against, but I know Embiid's playing against the 76ers, and he's got 59.
Well, that will be a game to throw on here real quick. So. That's definitely that's a game for sure to. If
you definitely had the over on Embiid's points, you smashed it. In the second quarter.
Yeah, I bet in fantasy basketball this week. I bet I'm playing somebody who's got Embiid though. It's almost like I always have the guy who has basically who has somebody else who's incredible. But yeah.
Well, they're playing the Hornets. The T-Wolves is playing the Hornets, so.
Oh, okay. So not playing each other. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, they're not playing each other. So, Spurs and 76ers and Hornets and T-Wolves, and we're looking at big shooting nights for bigs.
Always fun to see. I'm so glad that now the bigs are back in the NBA. We can watch some more. But we're not really watching like post ups or any like down low skills. We're just watching Embiid. Like, I don't know if you saw a highlight the other night where he like basically tried to go into a guy and then he ended up bouncing off him a little bit and then going down and then being a foul called. I was like, all right, Embiid, I'm losing a little respect. But granted, he's still so incredible that I'm not going to lose that much. So,
right.
I mean, he's an incredible player. But I'm very happy that we're seeing more guys try to play some big man basketball here.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Well, with that being said, Jay, thanks so much here for joining the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. Please follow at the CGA Tour on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter, formerly, but now X, and Instagram, as well as Threads, YouTube, TikTok, wherever else you find the CGA Tour.